Background essay, Hammurabi's Code. Was it just? So before reading the background essay, it's always a good strategy to look at the questions that you want to answer. So how many centuries ago, so remember centuries is 100 years, did Hammurabi live? And how long did he rule? Number 2, from Larsa to Mari. So those are these two cities here. So what's the length of Babylonia from north to south? Number 3, what is the estimated population? So how many people were there in Babylonia? Number 4, what are the 3 social classes? Was the population divided into? And then how would you describe Hammurabi's Code? So let's begin reading with those questions in mind. Nearly 4,000 years ago, a man named Hammurabi became king of a small city-state called Babylon. Today, Babylon exists only as an archaeological site in central Iraq. But in Hammurabi's time, it was the capital of the kingdom, Babylonia. So Babylon is a city, Babylonia is the kingdom. We know little about Hammurabi's personal life. We don't know his birth date, how many wives and children he had, or how or when he died. We aren't even sure what he looked like. However, thanks to thousands of clay writing tablets that have been found by archaeologists, we know something about Hammurabi's military campaigns and his dealings with surrounding city-states. We also know a bit about everyday life in Babylonia. The tablets tell us that Hammurabi ruled for 42 years. For the first 30 of these years, Hammurabi control was limited mostly to the city of Babylon. He was involved in what historians called lots of squabbles, which are like arguments, with other small kings in other small city-states, some of them no more than 50 miles away. This changed, however, with victories over Larsa in the south and Mari in the north. Hammurabi became ruler of much of Mesopotamia. So Mesopotamia, remember, is the region between the Tigris and Euphrates River. And we can see here Larsa and Mari. And this gray area around there is the territory of Hammurabi's empire in around 1800 BCE. Hammurabi was not starting from a blank slate. Beginning around 3500 BCE, Sumerian people had developed Mesopotamia into the world's first civilization. By the time Hammurabi took power in 1792 BCE, cuneiform writing had already been around for 1,700 years. Hammurabi would eventually rule over an estimated population of 1 million people. Most of his subjects were farmers, as many people during this time period were. The people lived in city-states surrounded by fields, watered by irrigation canals that fed into the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And so being that a lot of the population are farmers, and they required irrigation to get the water to grow their crops, we can also begin to presume that some laws would have to be about that because it is an important part of their daily life. All right, up to the second column. After his victories at Larsa and Mari, Hammurabi's thoughts of war gave thoughts to peace and this in turn gave way to thoughts of justice. In the 38th year of his rule, Hammurabi had 282 laws carved into a large pillar-like stone called the stele. Together, these laws have been called Hammurabi's Code. Historians believe that several of these inscribed steles were placed around the kingdom. The only one has been found intact, meaning together. Hammurabi was not the first Mesopotamian ruler to put his laws into writing, but his code is the most complete. So others did write laws, but this is definitely the most complete version of them. By studying his laws, historians have been able to get a good picture of many aspects of Babylonian society. So different things that we have learned about include work and family life, social structures, trade, and government. For example, we know that there are 3 distinct social classes. So this is one of our questions. We know that there are landowners, free people who don't own land, and slaves. The many farm and irrigation laws tell us that Babylonians depended upon their crops for survival. The code also tells us about everyday problems like buildings collapsing, oxen getting loose and trampling fields, and neighbors squabbling much like they do today. Hammurabi tried to bring order and fairness to it all. What follows are 5 documents that provide a sampling of Hammurabi's laws. Some students of Babylon find that these laws are overly harsh, while others found that to be quite balanced given the harsh realities of ancient life. In this mini Q, you are asked to consider justice on 3 levels. So thinking about the fairness of the accused, the fairness to the victim, and the fairness and security for society. With these measuring sticks in mind, read the documents and answer the question. Hammurabi's Code, was it just? All right. With that reading in mind, let's go now over the questions. How many centuries ago did Hammurabi live? And while there's this larger estimation, 4,000 years ago, to get a more detailed answer would be to subtract the current year by negative 1,792, because BCE is like a negative number because it's before 0. And you'll get about 38 centuries ago. And how long did he rule? As we see right here, it is 42 years ago. Sorry, he ruled for 42 years. Pardon. And then the distance between Larsa and Mari, the approximate distance. The way that you do this is if you were to set up a ruler line between here and drop it down using this scale. The scale is from 0 to 200. And when you're doing it, you should get approximately 380 miles. The population of Babylonia, we can see at the bottom of the first column, he ruled over 1 million people. And the social classes that are described in Hammurabi's Code are right here. We have the landowners, free people who did not own land, and enslaved people. And then for describing Hammurabi's code, important facts to include is that there were 282 laws. You can talk about how these laws were written in cuneiform and carved into a stele. And that they were written by Hammurabi.